Greetings, fellow adventure thrill seekers. I am Eric, the travel guy, and finance is the subject matter at hand. And this is really exciting because this means if you're thinking about how to pay for one of these vacations, it means you're one step closer to actually taking said vacation. And this is totally exciting to me. But I think there are a couple of tips here and certainly some pitfalls I don't want you to fall into. So let's go through them one by one. What's going to affect the cost of this particular vacation? A lot of this you may already know, but hopefully we can help you out along the way. First, I think it's really important to set a budget. Again, very rudimentary, but decide how much money you want to allocate to this particular vacation and what type of vacation is this going to be for you. Is this going to be an extended weekend? Is this going to be a bucket list trip? But setting a budget really has a lot to do with what you're going to be doing, how long you're going to be going, how you're going to get there, etc. So talk about budget first, because I think especially with someone, should you be going with other people, sitting down and having an honest conversation about that budget is super important, because the devil is in the details in just about every facet of a trip, and certainly trip planning and the cost of a particular vacation. So budget's going to help us out here a little bit, and that leads us to charging things. Don't fall into the pitfall of charging a vacation. Some people do it, and I think it's like a venereal disease. You know, that is a gift that keeps on giving year round. You don't want to do that. But if you want to use your credit card to earn miles or earn points, that's a really good thing, as long as you can pay for that vacation before your billing cycle, so you're not financing a vacation. General rule of thumb, of course, save the money so that you're taking trips that you can afford. Believe me, you will thank me later on this. Now, when we talk about like who's going, you say, well, obviously the more people are going, the more expensive it's going to be. But really, keep in mind that a lot of pricing is based on double occupancy. So of course, if you get into odd numbers, you got to pay attention. If you're traveling, doing a solo trip, if you're traveling, so pay attention to how many beds are in those bedrooms and how that pricing structure, that varies from cruise ships to resorts to hotels to vacation rentals. So be mindful of that. Also, how you're going to get there is another consideration. And once again, these particular details are super important. For instance, you might find a great deal for, $9 a night for an all-inclusive resort in the Caribbean. Well, if it costs you $3,000 to get there, then it really isn't just $9 a night. It's going to be really expensive to get there. So pay attention to how you're going to get there. And don't forget, with every mode of transportation, there are those sticky little fees that you might forget about. Checked baggage fees can add up real quick if you're checking a bag. Don't forget that if you have to stay in a hotel or a motel overnight if you're driving, perhaps you got a little too aggressive with your driving. If you're taking a road trip, generally speaking, I don't do more than 6 hours in a car in one particular day, because let's face it, anything over that turns into like a hostage situation, especially with children. So, don't be too aggressive on how many hours you can do in the car, because if you arrive at hour 8 and you can't take it anymore, staying overnight in a motel is going to cost you, and it's also going to cost you in the duration of your trip. There's only so much time you have. So pay close attention to the details in just about every facet of your trip, and don't forget your specific details, financial details, are also really important. In other words, if you're taking your significant other and you have children, well, don't forget you've got childcare to consider. If you're taking air and you're driving to the airport, well, where are you going to put the car? Are you going to do long-term parking? What are you going to do with the car when you get there? All of those things really do add up. And one last note on insurance. Are you going to insure this particular trip? Now, that's a subject for another video. We'll get into that. I say anything over $500 you want to insure, because getting an insurance policy, it's still money out of your pocket. And finally, don't forget that when you're going to this particular place will have something to do with the cost. So peak season, value season, shoulder season, we made a video about that, so watch that video. There are pluses and minuses to both. Generally speaking, you're going to pay the most in peak season and pay the least in value season. Now, don't forget too, that credit card we talked about not charging, well, remember to call your bank before you go. I don't bring my debit cards with me. I only bring the credit cards that I'm going to use on that particular trip. I bring ID, I bring my passport and all that. But I also call those financial institutions in advance so you don't get flagged for fraud protection, and that can get a little problematic while you're on the road. So little tips. Hopefully you're planning your next great adventure right now. Good luck, and thanks for watching.